I'm back today and I'm actually giving a review of Spare. Spare was a very interesting read. It was a very long read. There was a lot of things in it that were eye-opening, and there were a lot of things in it that I would say it could have been, left out. Like private areas. We didn't need to know that. We certainly didn't need to know how he lost his virginity. We didn't need to know any of the stuff really, even with his ex or partying at Courtney Cox's house. I think most people were really interested in the dynamics that took place between Harry and Meghan with his royal family. And, we knew that Spare was going to be a memoir. We knew that we were going to get stories of his past, his experiences in the military, his experiences with racism and being called a racist by the British press. States in the book, mainly the Nazi costume, which his brother and sister-in-law kind of gave him the green light to wear. He also claims in the book racially insensitive statement to a friend of his. So, he's been called out his whole life. And so we knew that Harry was the bad boy. Everyone kind of had this idea and concept in their head that he's the fun one in the family. But I think we really wanted more of the story of what happened. He glossed over a lot, and it seemed like there were at least 3 or 4 things that were really big red flag issues that were happening within his family dynamics. One of it is that he fails to see that bringing Meghan into the fold from the very beginning was not going to work. He really, really wanted it to work, and I think it was just the timing for him. Harry was in a very dark place most of his life, actually. When I look at the whole history of Harry and, how he's managed after his mother's passing in 97, he had a nosedive. He basically went off the rails. I mean, he claims in the book he used drugs to cope. He, drank a lot. He experienced a lot of dark trials because of his mother's passing and not being able to grapple with it or cope with the idea that his mother was gone. I mean, claiming he's looking for his mother still as a 30-year-old man, time after time in the book, bringing up his mother in every situation. I mean, he brought his mother up so much. I thought there was probably not one situation where he wouldn't be talking about his mom. And every chapter, it seemed, not every chapter, there was like a lot of chapters, at least 55 to 60 chapters. And there were 3 segments of the book. So there's like a 1-part, 2-part, 3-part, and then like 50 chapters per segment, 416 pages. So if you don't have the energy or the time, I'm trying to break this down for you so that you don't have to, read this entire book. Covering this sort of stuff really helps people understand that, when you don't have closure, when you don't feel like there's a real answer or a real closure in your family's death or passing, it's hard. It's hard for you to move on. You get stuck in the past, and it's very hard for you to look to the future. So you will grab on to anything that feels safe. And there's no way that Harry would have ended up with somebody like a Chelsea Davy or Cressida Bonus, the 2 young ladies that he dated. No matter how outstanding those women seem, coming from an upper crust family, extremely intelligent, well-read, well-traveled, those women wouldn't have cut it because they did not have the level of heartbreak or the level of trials that Harry would have needed to be able to confide in. I think the reason he got along so well with Meghan was because Meghan also came from a broken home. Meghan also overcame a lot of trials and tribulations. Being a divorced person, anyone can tell you who has been divorced. I'm not, but I'm just saying anyone who's been divorced in their life usually will say that it feels like a death to them, right? It feels like a death. It feels like a very hard blow, and you feel like a failure for a long time. And it's hard to get over for some people. Meghan, not so much. She moved on from her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, pretty quickly and even just mailed him the rings. That's neither here nor there. But the book Spare, when he meets Meghan, all right, that was a moment of clarity for him. It was like, oh, maybe this is what I need to get out of this rut. I need something different. I need to shake things up. I need to create something that will distance me from this toxic family that I'm in, which he doesn't straight out claim that his family is toxic. He just goes into a lot of details about the personalities of his family members. His dad being kind of a nerd, he did a lot. He'd served, he overcame a lot of his own struggles. His father, Charles, King Charles now. But so he talks about his relationship with his aunt Anne, and that there really wasn't much of a relationship with his aunt. And just he really goes through the relationships, and it sounds like the only real, I would say, relationships he had was with his mother. He had very sincere adoration and love for, and it's not wrong for Harry to have felt hurt and distraught and pain over his mother, but I think he waited very long in order to really let his emotions show. And this is a problem with most men. Most men they take a long time to process emotions. Women do it a lot quicker. We kind of go through the ups and downs and the feelings really quickly, and then we can let it go. Harry never did. So he held on to a lot of the pain and heartache from that. And you can tell in this book that that's what this whole book is about. It's his mother. Up to literally the last page. The last page, he tells a story about a hummingbird and being trapped in his house, and it was not able to fly. And it's just like, he's giving an idea that maybe it was spirit, like a mom or something coming to visit him, right? I mean, that's what I gathered from it. I don't know what other people gathered from it, but he used a lot of symbolism in this book to describe the feelings that his mother was around him. His mother was watching over him. Like, he gave a story about when they moved and they finally got settled into their new home after they left Tyler Perry's home, that, they were putting up their tree and Archie was there, and he knocked over an ornament that Meghan gave him of the Queen, and that it shattered, and it just, all the symbolism and everything around it and everything he did in the book is describing his mom watching over him. He even, I guess, consulted with some sort of psychic to ask about his mother, and of course the psychic gave him what he wanted to hear. Right. He talks a lot about his military experience. He talked about being in the British military and what that was like, flying Apache helicopters, and, a lot of stories like that. He wanted to paint himself a person that's not afraid of hard work, not afraid of going the extra mile. He gives us a story about him running and getting, trench feet, and really not giving up, and his perseverance. And I think he really wants to paint that image for himself, but I have mixed feelings, and here's why. All right, so in the book, he talks about his dad cutting him off financially, and he sounded extremely hurt, extremely almost like he did not expect this. He didn't see this coming a mile away, because this didn't happen to anybody he knew, right? Like, this is a part of my duty. This is the family I was born into. You can't expect me to go from being a boy that was catered to and sheltered to being a man, basically. Did you expect that you could leave the monarchy and you still can get paid and still can have, money coming into your household from the UK tax dollar? I didn't understand what he was getting at. Look, there were so many ways that he could have made money for himself outside of doing this deal with Netflix, doing this deal with this book, but I get it. The media that he hates so much still managed to play him. I say that because if you think about it, they still managed to get what they want. They still managed to pit him against his brother, against his sister-in-law, his dad. And, it's funny how he tells all these tales about how there's such a friction there. But when we look back at pictures of Harry and his brother, there was no friction. They looked like the happiest lot of people I've ever seen in my life. Like, his sister-in-law and him always looked chummy and like they were laughing and having a great old time. His brother and him, they were very playful and would banter back and forth on video interviews. They did not look like they were problematic at all. So this is why I always tell people, be careful what you watch, because sometimes people just paint this image of themselves like everything is fine, and it's really not. It's so far from fine. There was so much divisiveness and jealousy within that family. And I think it all stemmed from when Meghan stepped foot on the scene. I think they kind of low key wanted Harry to just be single